Hello and welcome everybody to today's edition of México News Network's Breaking News. I'm your host, Zafiro Fierro. Remember to follow us on all of our social networks and to catch us every day by logging on to our website, MexicoNewsNetwork.com, for relevant stories and news. Let's start with today's show. In perspective on world economy, the International Monetary Fund augmented the growth forecast for Mexico in 2016 to 2.5%, a contrast to the 2.4% they had announced the past month of April. For the country, it grew slightly from 2.4% to 2.5%, but because of Brexit, the worldwide perspective was reduced for this and next year. As a consequence of the United Kingdom separating from the European Union, the IMF reduced 0.1 perceptual points of the world's growth perspective, 2016 at 3.1% and for 2017 at 3.4%. They are optimistic about the uncertainty around the situation. It's expected for it to be reduced gradually, which will be reflected in the future. The effect produced by Brexit will be much more visible in countries with a fully developed economy. The impact will be less in emerging countries. For 2017, IMF did not change its forecast for Mexico, leaving it at a 2.6%. Before the June 23rd voting of the United Kingdom in favor of abandoning the European Union, the economic data and the evolution of the financial market indicated that the global economy was growing as expected. For the European Union, the IMF's growth perspective for the following year went up to 0.1%, leaving it at a 1.6%, and the growth has been revised going downward for 2017. As for the growth of the United Kingdom in 2016, it was reduced 0.2%, locating them in 1.7%, and for 2017 it will go down 0.9%. They are expected to rise of barely 1.3%. In the case of the United States, their growth forecast was reduced 2% points during 2016, leaving it at 2.2% with moderate effects from Brexit. In other headlines, Ukraine investors are looking into importing meat and avocados from Jalisco due to their high quality level and their competitive prices. The Ukrainian ambassador in Mexico, Ruslan M. Spirin, during his visit to Guadalajara explained the great potential market that is his country, which has around 45 million people. He mentioned the quality of the meat in Jalisco is perfect and the avocado is considered a fruit with many properties and health benefits. The oil itself is of much interest to them as well. They are still deciding if it's going to be imported fresh or a derivative due to the long transportation distances. Currently, both countries are in negotiations with business people from the agriculture sector and with the state government for formal agreements. Ukraine has very interesting environmental plans for Mexico as well. Investors from that country and the mayor of Jalisco, Enrique Alfaro, are in dialogue about installing a garbage recycling plant in Guadalajara. There is still no date set yet, but they are very interested in the project. It would start out as a pilot test with the capacity of recycling 5 tons daily, including car tires, plastics, and polyethylene. The goal is to recycle 50 tons daily. This plant would be completely ecological, using biodegradable products, and as a result of the recycling, it would produce diesel. The Ukrainian ambassador highlighted that Jalisco is also a candidate for the aerospace company Antonov to install a plant and serve shop in Mexico that would give maintenance to almost 200 heavy cargo planes that circulate Latin America. It is the start of a diplomatic bond where it's intended to promote with Ukrainian authorities the leadership that Jalisco maintains in technology, agriculture, and economic development. Moving on, exercising our vote, no matter what our beliefs or posture may be, is a right we all have as Mexican citizens, and we can make it happen even if we are not physically in the country, either temporarily or permanently. The future of our nation depends on our actions as responsible and conscious citizens. Voting gives us power. In the case of the United States, currently 34.6 million Mexican people live there. According to the data given out by INE, out of those, 22.4 million are over 18, the voting age, and from those, 11.7 million of these Mexicans were born in the States and are able to vote in both countries if they register in the electoral census. The rest of them, the 10.4 million born in Mexico, can only vote in Mexican elections. The Mexican electoral census is composed of 81 million Mexicans who have their official ID, even though there is no exact data that tells us how many of those 22.4 million Mexicans living in the States have a voting ID. If all of those people exercise their right to vote, we can count all of them as potential votes towards change. During the 2012 elections, Barack Obama, only 60% of the Mexican people registered to vote in the states. Nonetheless, 71% of the votes for Obama were Hispanic. This goes to show how important participating is, how meaningful every vote is, and the magnitude of the Hispanic community vote. The results are clear in the elections, and the power is in our hands. Same goes for this year's election. It's been noted through the years that many Mexican people, as they go to the States, they lose interest in their native country's politics and rights as Mexicans, even if they have family back home or even are planning on coming back. They become interested in their new country's elections and politics, which is also important, but they shouldn't be completely losing track of their own nations. Even with that detachment many go through, there are still many Mexican people still interested in their country's elections. And lastly, on a positive note, the Mexican organizations in the States have fought for years to make their political rights exercised in Mexico. This was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Zafiro Fierro. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Log on to MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.